Welcome to Deeply Disturbing Things,
the podcast.
I'm Macy.
And I'm Naomi.
And we're two anxious counselors with our friend named Sarah who like to talk about deeply disturbing things.
And we believe that normal is boring, knowledge is power, and laughter is the best medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Fucking.
Wow.
Yeah,
Sarah brought us pixie sticks. Listen to our last episode, The Candyman, if you haven't. Just, tear off the top few centimeters and maybe make your parent eat that part, just in case.
Well, I didn't eat one because I'm not trusting.
Is that really why?
Yes.
Is that really why? She doesn't trust you, Sarah.
The back was so sealed.
We just talked about murder by pixie stick, and then you bring over pixie sticks.
I mean, in a cute way.
I mean, if we're not learning from this podcast, what are we doing here?
True.
I'm first.
Oh, good. I thought I was first,
But you were first last week, so that means I'm first this week.
That makes sense.
So this is a current event. It's been in the news, but if you haven't followed it, I want to shed some light on it. I'm going to talk about the disturbingly effed up situation that Brittney Griner is in.
Right. I didn't think about that. The basketball player?
Yes, Brittney Griner is an American pro basketball player.
Yes.
With the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury. She's 6'9".
Wow. Beast mode.
She looks like a total superhero. Here's a picture of her in action. Just looks completely badass. And not just looks completely badass. She was a member of Team USA's 2016 gold medal team. She holds tons and tons of awards, including 2-time WNBA Defensive Player of the Year. She's a 6-time WNBA All-Star. She's one of only 11 women to receive an Olympic gold medal, an NCAA championship, an International Basketball Federation World Cup gold medal, and a WNBA championship.
It's impressive. Mm-hmm.
So badass.
I played basketball in elementary school and I get really tired running back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I got there, they already did the thing and said I have to run back again. Sometimes I could do a layup.
I would think the hoops were probably lower.
No.
For little kids.
There's definitely regulation.
I don't think so. I think you're just short. It just
pretty
feels like regulation.
Pretty sure it's real tall.
Yeah, when you're in elementary school, everything seems tall.
I could have been the best.
You could have. Should have stuck with it.
No.
In February 2022, so February of this year, Griner was detained by Russian customs after vape cartridges containing less than a gram of cannabis oil were found in her luggage.
Mm-hmm.
She was later arrested on...
Which would be enough for personal use.
She was later arrested on drug charges. And she had been entering Russia to play with the Russian Premier League during the WNBA offseason. So I read that because the WNBA pays low salaries compared with the NBA, that a lot of the players have to play overseas in the offseason to supplement their income.
Yeah.
So every year since 2014, Griner is headed to Russia to compete for the European powerhouse, the UMMC Ekaterinburg. So Griner said she accidentally just left the vape cartridges in her luggage. If you're a person that travels all the time, you leave stuff in your luggage, you're not going to be emptying it out and bringing it back in every time. She did have a prescription for medical use from her home state of Arizona, and she tested negative to every drug test. So in Russia, though, all use is illegal. All types are illegal. So she was stopped at a Moscow airport. Her trial began on July 1st.
Was she there with her team? Like, did she fly in with her team or solo? You know?
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't find out that. So she pled guilty to the charges. So that was what was recommended that she do for her case. On August 4th, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison for drug smuggling with criminal intent. So that's the charge. Drug smuggling with criminal
With
intent.
only enough to use for yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
in your own vape pen that you brought.
There wasn't, it was just the cartridges.
Oh, it was just.
So that even more leads
it.
credence to she accidentally left it in there.
Yeah.
And she'd gone to Russia every year, so she knows the rules.
Yeah, and most of the time what would happen at any airport is they'd say throw them out. And
Right.
before you go through, they'd throw them in the garbage can.
Well, yeah. Russia's a little different.
A little hardcore.
The maximum sentence for this crime, drug smuggling with criminal intent, is a sentence of 10 years. So Griner was given almost the maximum sentence.
I mean, 9 years is so ridiculous.
In a Russian prison?
So ridiculous.
Terrifying.
Ridiculous.
I mean, all I think about is Stranger Things.
That's where my mind went.
That's where my mind went too. I'm like, oh God, get her out of there.
Yeah, that's kind of the worst possible scenario.
Too cold.
So all cannabis is illegal in Russia.
In a lot of fights, I'm sure. Like people are gonna want to test her, you know, like, oh, you think you're big, you know, that sort of thing, right? Like, oh, you think you're a star, you're gonna think you're gonna get special treatment.
I've always thought about how I would navigate those waters, and I would just do it like I did. Used to do back in school, is become friends with someone who's super tough and a good fighter, and be kind of like the idea person.
I would just not talk.
That was the role I always had, like elementary school.
I'd become your friend, so you'd protect me and just let me be quiet behind the scenes. I'd probably do like run errands for you. I'd be your errand bitch.
I do need that.
I would, yeah. I'll do what's necessary.
When I moved back home briefly for 3 months when I was 23, I used to pay my sister $1 to open up my beer for me. Beer that I had to hide behind my bed and was warm. Why? Because I wasn't allowed to have alcohol in the house.
So her opening it made her in trouble? Like
no, she had to go downstairs and get the opener and come back up and open it for me. And it was worth $1 to me because I was relaxing.
I would so become your bitch. I'd be like, sure, totally worth it. Be right back.
And it was worth it to drink warm Corona. It was better than nothing at all. It's believed that her detention there in Russia is politically motivated.
Yeah, it was during that big like back and forth.
She's being used as a pawn, is the belief, a bargaining chip in the US-Russian political arena, which is pretty heated right now. The war in Ukraine has gotten tensions very high.
I'd be so pissed. I'd be like, really? Like, now I'm the pawn between the world wars. Great. Everything's on my head. Great. Poor choice.
They're probably like, gotcha, score.
Bet you didn't think I was just
I'm getting a promotion for finding this.
That's what's gonna happen.
I wonder how they found it. I wonder if they had like drug dogs or whatever, or if they just did a thorough search.
Well, they probably knew she was coming in. They probably keep tab, especially during that time. We're keeping tabs on who's coming in. They knew that was happening. It's just so strategic.
But I mean, is that the level of scrutiny they give everybody, or do you think she got extra scrutiny?
Oh, I think they knew she was coming in, and they decided to heavily search any Americans coming in because of the crisis going back and forth between.
They were just looking for somebody to
pawn collecting.
Looking for, right. When you play chess, you try to collect all the pawns you can. That's literally the point of the game. Well, that and
winning.
Yeah.
Reactions from experts in hostage negotiations are split on this. The government
are some Russian and some from America.
Well, no, American experts on hostage negotiation are split on this. So on the one hand, publicizing deals to free Americans sets a bad precedent and endangers Americans, say some on one side. And then others believe that previous examples of such exchanges show that it's the only way to safely return wrongly detained prisoners.
Well, that's it. The only way the second thing works is if she was rightly detained or like wrongly detained unintentionally.
Well, the U.S. Department's stance is she is wrongly detained.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But and even if she's wrongly detained for political, like it'd have to be for non-political reasons. Like they're saying it was the amount you had equals this, it equals this amount of time in prison. And somehow they got that wrong. But they know exactly what they had and they gave her 9 years. Like it's just blatantly wrong.
It's overkill.
Right.
But the U.S. has a long-standing stance against negotiating with like terrorists or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like when it gets into being considered a hostage situation,
and it's so socially
it's like,
driven too.
okay, are we now negotiating? Like it seems like to be getting into a slippery slope.
Right.
Officially, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said the U.S. made a substantial proposal to the Kremlin, but didn't say the specifics. It was the first public acknowledgement that the highest levels of diplomatic relations were working hard to bring Griner home.
I'm just saying nobody would do that for me if I went to Russia and had some cartridges.
Like, where Macy go?
I just would disappear and nobody would say anything.
To Europe.
Naomi would be like, I'm here to record week 3 of Macy gone in Russia. Nobody's listening to me. Like you would become Winona Ryder.
I would become,
like that. You would come to rescue me in Russia.
What's that? AM Coast to Coast. I would become the new
right.
or whatever his last name is.
And I would be taken advantage of every day.
And I would let Sarah sit in your seat, but only with the understanding that she's just filling space. Just a place.
I just peed in my chair, Sarah, to mark my territory.
Did you see how upset you just got? You did that to me last week.
It's okay. She can sit in my
little payback. It's a bitch.
My chair.
I created chaos.
You created the monster.
It was my fault. She's gonna let me stay in Russia for at least a couple months.
You have to learn. That one. How else are you gonna learn?
I mean, I probably won't. I'll probably get killed.
Any agreement that U.S. and Russia has would involve a prisoner swap with Russia. So trading a prisoner we have of theirs for a prisoner they have of ours.
Sarah, you also have to get arrested. Oh wait, no. You have to get arrested. We need to find a Russian.
A Russian.
I know lots at work.
We need to get them arrested.
Well,
so you can swap them for me. Just make them
I'll have to
more
consider
attractive.
that.
Maybe a YouTuber would be good.
So a prisoner swap and or concessions on recent economic sanctions that were put in place due to the situation in the Ukraine. So you see how this gets very complicated very fast.
It reminds me of wife swap.
You know, I was on that show.
What? No.
I wasn't the wife being swapped, but it was somebody from my roller derby team. And so I was like briefly on there. So I have like a 5-second national TV famous moment.
Yeah.
I used to watch that all the time.
You'll have to watch this episode.
It's a little intense. I feel like there's so much not said on that show that it's odd.
Sure.
Like, I don't know, like,
well,
do I just get you now?
Well, seeing the behind the scenes on that was very interesting.
Really?
I mean, they filmed us for days and included like 15 seconds.
Weird. It's interesting. Yeah, you can tell they pick and choose.
Like, I guess we had nothing of value to offer.
They're like, cut her.
Cut. It's all on the cutting room floor.
Did you yell and fight?
I don't even remember what.
She was too nice. That's why.
We did a lot of things, and it's just like one little snippet of me like saying like one word after 3 days of filming nonstop. CNN reported shortly before this official announcement by the Secretary of State that the U.S. had offered notorious Russian arms dealer Victor Bout in return for Griner and another American they have over there imprisoned. Victor Bout is known as the Merchant of Death. And he is here on a 25-year sentence.
Dang.
For doing some arms dealing.
I mean, doesn't feel equivalent, but
Yeah.
Okay. Like it does fit. That's like that comparison to me makes it feel so much more socially driven, because it's all of, I mean, because it blew up on social media and the news because she's a basketball player. Like, so again, if it were me, nobody's trading an arms dealer for me. But because
and the charges do seem completely effed. Like
right,
they're
100% effed.
There's nothing legitimate. There's no
but how many
drug
people,
smuggling with criminal intent. I mean, that says what you're going to go sell it.
but like how much?
What are you going to get? Five rubles?
So how much does that happen to like a regular person potentially?
I don't know the ruble.
I don't know.
I was like, that's a great
comparison.
Yeah,
it is, but I don't know. Like, I mean, 5 rubles could be $1 million US dollars.
And it's probably not doing well right now, honestly.
Right.
So Rob Sale, a former FBI hostage negotiator, did reiterate that swapping prisoners and offering concessions to terrorist organizations or dangerous nations is possibly highly problematic. He said, yeah, you get her or a couple of people out now, but down the road, it sends a message to other countries that if you want something from the US government, you just take some Americans and trump up some charges.
Right.
Which I think there's a point there.
Well, and my point is, I think only the right Americans, because I don't actually fully agree with that. I don't think the average
high
Joe,
profile Americans.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that's why they grabbed her.
I know they wouldn't grab me. So maybe I'm more okay with this than I thought. Just kidding.
So you become famous.
JK. No, that's not gonna. No.
I don't plan to go to Russia anytime soon, so I think I'm good.
It's probably on my list of no-goes.
Yeah,
it's fine.
The Bring Our Families Home campaign is an organization that supports the causes of wrongfully detained Americans abroad. And they counter these concerns saying no data exists to support prisoner exchanges leading to more hostage taking or arbitrary detentions.
Okay. Basically, it doesn't increase people to be bad people.
Based on the data so far. Okay. This is a rapidly changing political landscape, as we know.
Right. I would just like to say we do have an international audience. If you happen to be Russian and can have access to the internet, which you may not, but if you do, we understand that not
you want them to break out Griner?
I mean,
oh, is that too extreme?
You said it.
Where were you going with it?
I was just gonna say, like, we understand that a lot of citizens don't necessarily agree with political actions taken. And if you do agree with political actions taken, then this is a point, like we tell many people throughout our podcast, of you don't have to listen. But if you
probably already stopped. You're not even hearing this.
Right. I think
probably as soon as I said Brittney Griner, they were like,
well, I think the second you were like, you're gonna break her
jump over to Joe Rogan.
Oh, right.
We have reportedly offered this strong deal to Russia, so we're going to swap Merchant of Death, Victor Bout, to secure the freedom of Griner and Paul Whelan, who's the other dude who was accused of espionage, I believe. Oh. But American government officials have said they have yet to receive a serious counteroffer out of Moscow. So we've put this strong offer on the table, and we've not heard anything back of substance.
Because they're waiting to use it against us at some point for something bigger.
As you'll see in a minute, we don't have time to wait.
How long has she been in there?
9 months, since February.
Oh, it's right.
Griner has sent a handwritten letter to President Biden asking him not to forget about her. Oh.
Well, that would be my worry, is like the more time goes by, because really that is what she has right now, is some limelight of people
Well, it
hearing
takes
about
people over here like keeping it at the forefront, like actively working every day.
Right.
With luckily she has, but I mean, if it was you, it'd be me and Sarah and your dad. I don't know if
What's the guy with the
if our
pilot?
3,000 Instagram followers are enough to make waves, but I would try.
6,000
I would not
on
forget
Podbean.
about you,
I would
Missy.
have international listeners. Please come to my aid. Beep, 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 beep.
SOS.
I don't know if that's right. And excuse me if it's not.
It's supposed to be SOS. You
I'm-
could have said something else like, wow.
I'm feeling scared for my safety.
You're questioning everything that you held sacred.
I'm so scared. I'm getting scared here with you. You're scaring me.
President
It's
Biden does seem to be truly taking this seriously. He said he wouldn't meet with Putin
Putin pants.
at the big summit unless Putin was going to discuss the release of Griner. So that seems to be serious to me.
Mm-hmm.
While she waits, her lawyer, Mr. Boykov, said Brittney Griner struggles in large part because it's been very difficult to get her access to speak to her family back here.
I bet. Yeah.
He said she suffers a lot without her family because she hasn't seen them for so long, and it's very difficult to talk to them in any way.
How old is she?
She just had her 32nd birthday in prison, Russian prison.
That's like the worst.
So her lawyer said it's been very difficult to organize phone calls with Brittney's wife, Sherelle, and she's been unable to speak at all to her parents or siblings since her detention. In an interview with CBS Mornings last week, Brittney's wife, Sherelle Griner, said that she had been able to speak to her wife only twice since she was arrested, adding that the most recent conversation had been so disturbing that she cried for 2 or 3 days afterwards. She told Gayle King, "It was the most disturbing phone call I'd ever experienced." Her wife worried about being abandoned in Russia and expressed to her that she didn't feel like her life mattered to anyone over here, and that she was just in so much pain that it was just really tough to hear. I mean, that would be so hard being isolated from your people. Like you count on here, like you get your one phone call at least. Like over there, it's a different system.
Yeah.
Sherelle considers her wife to be a hostage since negotiations are being held for her release, which makes sense.
Yeah.
She's been fighting nonstop every day to bring Brittney home. She did recently meet with Biden to discuss his efforts and came away feeling that the administration is working hard, but Putin will need to step up with clear terms. So we've put terms on the table, but Putin needs to come to the table.
Which is the part that makes it feel pretty helpless, is that, you know, it's not like, oh, if only our country would support, like your country does support you and we're trying, but we can't.
But it's difficult.
We can't make.
And when
Putin
you're
do
cut off from
something.
news, you just have nothing but worries and doubts.
And
to
with
keep you
World War
company.
III on the brink, like you have to be so careful about what you do.
That's why I don't sleep.
That's related to my topics.
Ekaterina Kulagina, may I pronounce that wrong? A journalist visited Griner in her cell last springtime as part of a civil society team that monitors the conditions in Russian prisons. And she said that Griner's 2 cellmates at that time were women who spoke English and were also in prison on drug-related charges.
Okay.
She said
Griner, just in the sense of like, you imagine like, oh, is she going to be dropped in with a bunch of murders? Like what is
well,
that?
at least you can have a conversation if you so choose.
Right.
Griner was reading a biography of the rock band the Rolling Stones, and she sometimes also played a game with her cellmates that is similar to the board game Battleship. When I read that, I was like, please, God, do not let the only game that I'm stuck with for eternity be Battleship. Battleship is the worst game.
I like Battleship,
but it's so easy to cheat. There's no point to it because everybody's secretly moving their ships around. So it's like miss.
Pause. I was about to say,
well, everybody does that.
It's you. It's just like people who cheat. The ones who are most worried about are the ones effing doing it. It's you. You don't play because you don't trust, because it's you.
It's horrible. I mean, not only
Sarah, you and I can play Battleship sometime. I ain't playing with this cheater.
not only is there cheating, that is totally
Are you getting all
doable.
sweaty, a little nervous? Drink some more wine. It'll make you feel better.
Also, I don't
Loose
feel
lips
comfortable
sink ships
with how loosely the pegs go in there, and there's always the possibility of somebody game raging and flipping it, and then I never find all the pegs. So
Put the peg on the top.
Okay, that's
yes. I hate Battleship. I felt so much for Brittney Griner in that moment. I'm like,
maybe she likes Battleship. Maybe she came up with the game.
Well, it's not even Battleship. It's similar to the board game Battleship.
Well, because
So it's a Russian version of Battleship. So I don't even know what we're dealing with here.
Don't you try to cover your shame.
Well, we have like US ships, so they probably have like Russian ships.
If you had one last game that you could play in prison, what would it be?
Mousetrap.
What's a game I can play over and over and not get sick of it?
Mousetrap to diagnose ADHD in kids.
You have to talk louder. Say that again. You're far away.
Oh, I really like Connect 4
That's fun.
and Crazy Eights.
When I was doing therapy with children, the ones that had ADHD, I had all these games, and they would go for Mousetrap every time. The ADHD kids.
I like Mousetrap. That's fun.
The game that traumatized me when I used to work with elementary kids and that I can never even look at again is that goddamn Guess Who.
Oh, that was my favorite growing up.
But all the kids, like I would work in an elementary school and back to back, every kid would pick the Guess Who.
The next thing you're going to tell me is that you hate Hungry Hippos. And then
No, I love Hungry Hippos. Right. I did not have that as a choice.
Okay.
I thought Guess Who was problematic on so many levels.
Because it literally targets stereotypes.
Yes, it's
right.
It's horrible. But
I didn't understand that.
I just eventually I didn't know what to do because I tried hiding it and they would be like, where's the game? And
right, because it's good. I did
It's not good.
Thoroughly.
It's the worst game.
What's the
does your person have a big nose?
Sorry.
And a weak chin? What the fuck is that game teaching us?
Rosy cheeks?
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Sorry. I like Sorry because it taught me how to be a mean person.
No, Sorry's good for distress tolerance.
It's a good way to let it out.
That's a good one that
Sorry.
We use that at
sucks to be you.
We use that at work in our games group because it does teach so much about how to handle disappointment.
Yeah.
Right.
So this reporter that was checking on the prison situations said that in Brittney Griner's lockup, which is a pre-trial detention center inside Correctional Colony number 1, which sounds terrifying, women were allowed to shower twice a week. She also said that Griner was suffering from pain, including headaches, and she discovered that Griner is in a bed for typical height people, and so a foot of her body couldn't even fit on the bed. That is terrible.
That is a benefit for me. I will fit in all the
you'll fit on the cot. And this reporter also said that the prison was very uncomfortable because it's an old building and whatever temperature is outside just gets translated inside. So it's either overheated or too cold. She did put in a request for Griner to get a longer bed. So that was something good.
Yeah,
she also said
your shins constantly. That would suck.
Well, not to be able to stretch out comfortably.
Or would her knees hang over? Oh my gosh, her knees would probably hang. I'm trying to imagine where I'd end up on. I'd probably be up to her waist.
Interestingly, this reporter said she's no longer allowed to inspect and monitor prison conditions.
Shocking how that turned out. Is that about how tall Animal Cracker was?
She was 6'4".
What?
Off skates.
What? So she's 6'9"?
Yeah. So Animal Cracker on skates was almost as tall as Brittney Griner.
Right.
This was an old Derby teammate we had. insanely tall animal cracker. But
yeah,
she was so nice. She was a gentle giant.
she was so nice.
So nice. She didn't like hurting people.
And
we used to always tell her,
knocking her down.
Be mean, and like she just couldn't do it.
She was just so nice. She scared people just skating out there, but then she wouldn't like
because she was kind heart.
You just go for the knees on the tall folks, or like the thigh. You dead leg them, and they go down, or you get down under them. You lift them up, and they go.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Right.
Timber.
Hey,
old derby stuff.
The low
It's
man woman wins.
Low man wins.
Right.
Woman.
Person. I was gonna say I said
low
man,
person wins.
because that's how we.
Well, I was like, are you talking about co-ed derby? Because I hate.
No, I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. Like
I didn't like it
hit
either.
me in weird spots with your weird body.
No, I didn't like it.
I mean, I didn't mind hurting them, but it would be like I just
didn't really understand.
I didn't enjoy
the
it.
Concept, I guess. I just didn't.
Yeah, like I understand that you fell on me. Get off. Like, get off now. I'm taking this offensively.
Yeah, I mean, for
just takes
the dudes that were, into girls, and then they're falling on them, and it's just
it's like it just.
I mean, that wasn't everybody in it, but it's just some people's like, okay, I'm not.
Or girls that wear over skimpy things, and it's like, okay, like. Anyways, tangent. Sorry. I meant low man wins as in get low to the ground. You can't get knocked down. That was an accident and it rhymed.
That's really good.
Thanks.
That was your motto.
No, I just made it up.
Brittney's next hearing is scheduled for tomorrow, October 25th. It'll already have passed by the time y'all listen to this. Unless Macy posts it tomorrow.
I posted tomorrow, Tuesday.
Okay,
I posted it.
Yes,
I posted on Tuesday last week and the week before.
I don't know, sometimes.
And the week before.
Later in the evening.
And
should the courts should the courts uphold their initial decision and not accept the appeal, Brittney will likely spend time in one of Russia's infamous penal colonies.
Ew, gross.
Where she may be expected to spend hours a day doing forced labor for meager or very little, meager or very little, same meaning, compensation. Mr. Wieland, the other prisoner they're trying to get out, who was sentenced in June 2020 to 16 years, has spent most of his time sewing buttons in a prison camp in the Mordovia region of Western Russia.
My fingers.
Russian penal colonies are prison labor camps. So this is where Brittney's going to go if her appeal doesn't make some traction tomorrow. They're essentially remnants of the Soviet Union's famous Gulag system. So I had to look up, what is the Gulag system? Despite criticism that the system resembled Joseph Stalin's gulags, the Russian government reintroduced forced labor in 2016. The Gulag is recognized as a major instrument of political repression in the Soviet Union. It sounds like a very thick soup to me, like a stew.
I know, that will, like a goulash. That's
like so thick that you're going to choke on it.
Yeah.
Griner will likely report. So if the appeal doesn't work out, will likely report to one of the 35 or so all-women penal colonies in the country. So depending on where it is located, the treatment will vary.
Jeez.
Hopefully, she won't go to prison colony number 14 because it's notoriously brutal. Inmates there have been said to live among rats, losing fingers while working 17-hour days at sewing machines, and be forced to watch guards burning kittens alive.
What? We've had our episode. You don't with cats.
Right. Even though that documentary is stupid, we stand by the message in the title.
We do. The documentary was stupid.
Why? I didn't watch it.
Because they ignored the main thing, which was when somebody got viciously murdered. They glossed over it.
Yeah, they glossed over the actual person who was. It was very shocking. All like they showed more than they should have shown, in my opinion.
Yes, they showed actual
the cats,
videos.
Where I'm like, dude, I don't want want to see that.
cat snuff videos.
I don't
No,
want to
thank
see
you.
air being sucked out of the bag while the kitten's
No,
in it. Like
they showed too much.
Like I get that. Like okay, what you cut off the part where it died, but you're making me watch it being
Like,
tortured or
I mean,
stepped
come on.
Like no,
Gestalt. We're filling in the blanks.
right. Like you're traumatizing me, Netflix. I do not agree with how. Sorry, there's a whole different episode.
Yeah,
Go there. You can
Go
listen to it fresh.
We don't know which one it is, but it's there somewhere.
It's gone.
There are several disturbing commonalities across the penal system. So even if she doesn't get sent to that most notorious one, they all have dilapidated infrastructure, known to limit access to running water and heat, especially in the more remote locations. So prisoner hygiene is often neglected as a result, and the colonies are severely overcrowded with prisoners living in close quarters. Russian law dictates that each inmate have 20 feet of personal space, which is not much. That's like here to like the end of the camera. And
20 feet's the distance to stay and play in roller derby.
Yeah, but if that's your personal space, I would want more.
From what to what?
20 square feet. Mm-hmm. So if you go that whole distance, it would only be a foot wide. Mm-hmm. You'd have to just flatlander it the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's so tall.
She needs extra because she's tall. She needs, extra concessions. But this is less than the requirements of the European Convention on Human Rights and is not even often met in the facilities.
I was about to say, I mean, the US has some pretty, again, a topic for a different day, horrific prison stories itself for prison conditions we've held. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
And they could be denied medical care. So for their labor requirement, most of the women are forced to cook, clean, or sew. And they say that overtime is voluntary, but the work is actually mandatory, and guards will threaten retribution if staff don't sign up. So as a result, the prisoners are working 16 to 7-hour days with just 4 hours of sleep each night. And torture may happen.
I don't sleep off 4 hours. I don't live off 4 hours. There we go.
Yeah. So a lot is hinging on this trial tomorrow. They've said that if Griner is sent to a colony with a lenient governor, that she may be allowed to coach basketball in the daytime rather than being a seamstress.
Okay. I mean, still a bunch of hot garbage, but okay. Yeah.
Right. Better, I mean, it's still going to be maybe, or it might be torture, as I'll get to in a minute.
Torture basketball coach.
What are you going for?
Yeah, who's buying that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Where are these buttons going? We need to track the buttons. Experts don't expect her appeal to go through, sadly. But they say as long as they can keep the appeal process going, Brittney will stay in the Moscow prison detention center instead of being sent to a penal colony.
Which can take years, actually.
Yeah, so that might be to her benefit. So that'll give the negotiation time more time to work it out. A few days ago, her lawyers offered to bring in a basketball for her. So this is somebody that probably played basketball almost every day of her life, obviously passionate about it, obviously a huge part of her identity. The prison does have a hoop, but she refused, saying it would be too painful to think about right now. For 8 months, she hasn't touched a basketball.
Kind of trying to almost disassociate from that a little bit.
I just think if you think of Maslow's hierarchy, like she's at the bottom. Basketball is not, she's in survival mode.
Yeah, there's no trying to have some fun.
or fulfill a passion. No, that's higher up. So for 8 months, she hasn't touched a basketball.
And it reminds her of what she's lost.
Yeah. And that was the whole reason she was there too. So, I mean, tons of reminders. She said, maybe if I'm in here longer, but not now. So even though we may think like being offered the opportunity to coach basketball instead of sewing buttons or whatever might be like better. That might be just like psychologically not better for her.
Well, yeah, and them kind of getting to tote her around, like use her in a way.
Right. And it's outside of her choice and her control. Like choosing to play basketball because you love it is different than being forced to do it.
So we're waiting on Putin to make a decision.
Putin
pants.
Putin needs to bring a serious counteroffer to the table. Like we're gonna give back the merchant of death. I mean, come on. That's like big. Putin needs to come to the table.
Or get out and leave her.
Well, that's my topic.
That's a good topic. I've seen it in the news and then it kind of dwindled away because it's just kind of left the center of news. But she's still there. Yeah.
She's still there. We don't want to forget that she's over there suffering.
Never forget. Get her out.
Free Brittney.
But hopefully sooner than that.
Sooner than later.
Right.
I mean, the thought of going to a Russian penal colony just sounds like horrific.
I'm offended by the name too. Get out of here. You're penile.
Keep your penile.
No consent.
Colony.
That's what we talked about. Like anything protruding or penile, we want consent. And she did not consent to that penile. All right.
What do you got?
Smile over here for a